Now, Attacq is a property developer with a focus on assets in the Waterfall Estate Mall area, or Mall of Africa area rather. Market cap here, 13.4 billion rand. It does not pay any dividends at this stage.
But plans to from 2018, so that's an interesting transition. They started off their life as really being focused on the development opportunity.
That's right.
But they're signaling now that they're rather, I like the idea of shifting that a little
And
bit.
we do have the share price graph up
Yes.
there, Grant. So why is this one in your selection?
I think what's quite interesting here, and I think that's why you're seeing that change, is predominantly South African investors have been buying property stocks for the income that we mentioned at the beginning of the show. So Attacq have been able to deliver on the targets that they set for capital growth, but the market just hasn't been rewarding that. So I think the change towards paying an income is definitely a good move, and I think the market is going to start valuing this one quite differently. And what's very, very interesting about this is the massive pipeline that they have in the Waterfall area and in the Waterfall node. So it's quite interesting. We're all very familiar with the Mall of Africa, but just the amount of bulk and the amount of land that they've been able to acquire and the consolidation strategy that they are following. So anyone that lives in Gauteng and have driven on the N1 will see the PwC tower. So they've been able to consolidate their offices from both Johannesburg and Pretoria at the Waterfall node. And Deloitte also recently announced that they would also be having a big office park in the Waterfall node.
So head offices in their fold. Just quickly looking at the share price graph again, there could potentially be some significant upside is what I'm hearing here.
That's exactly it. So you're going to be receiving a dividend, which, given their pipeline, you would be able to assume that they would be able to grow that dividend quite aggressively. So I do think that it is a stock offering you quite a good opportunity at the moment.
Well, are you ready to take advantage of the opportunity?
Well, that share chart doesn't look that great, but actually, because of the x-axis, y-axis thing there, it looks like it's actually done worse than it has. It's really just sort of tracked sideways over 5 years. It did have that spike there. So to put that to sleep, my follow-on question is about the relationship, talking of fund families, between this entity and the broader Atterbury Fund Properties team. Because that has been a massively successful Pretoria-based group that started off building properties in that mainland area around the Atterbury Road off-ramp. That's where the name comes from. The founder elephants have mostly moved to the Stellenbosch area. But I always wondered what is in Attacq and what is outside of Attacq in the associated funds, because that does create the potential for not transfer pricing, but for assets to be kind of either in or out. What's your sense of that?
So what's quite interesting is the partnerships that they have been following. So in terms of the Att Fund, for example, so Atterbury and Attacq would actually have a partnership in going into some of their malls in Africa, so some of the Nigerian malls, I think in Ghana as well. So they do partner, but obviously Atterbury listed Attacq separately. And what's in Attacq? So it's obviously this Waterfall node that we've discussed. It's some strategic nodes in Pretoria, a mall in Potchefstroom, and very interestingly, quite a big stake in Mass Real Estate.
Yes. What is that?
Mass Real Estate is a developer.
Not a listed entity.
No, it's listed. It's listed here, but they're predominantly focused in the UK and Germany. What's also quite interesting, having spoken about the resilient crowd, is the guys that started Nepi have formed their own, or they left Nepi and they started Prime Capital. And Mass has actually partnered with Prime Capital to look at...
so there are a lot of I know this, every time we talk about the property environment, there are a lot of cross relations between the different companies.
That's it, but essentially they are a property developer in Central
But
Europe.
what you're saying is your sense is this is a positive. You're not anxious that Attacq is in any way being disadvantaged by this relationship. In fact, the opposite is true, that they get opportunities they wouldn't otherwise see.
So are we going to call this one? Anything else you want to
No, that's
ask?
fine. That's fine. I mean, we have one client who owns them, and I've watched them sort of hover around the 20 rands a share area, and I'm wondering whether this switch to a yield play will mean that they'll get support. Your view is clearly that is the case.
It is. I think
Is
in the
that
short
not
term,
already factored into the price?
it is, but I think coming closer to the dividend, you'll see possibly more buying. So I do think that you will have to be patient, but given the pipeline that they have, I think we've got to back them.
Hot, you definitely hot on this one, and Paul, can you be convinced?
I'm on this one too. I think that Waterfall node really is an exciting development, and you know, Gauteng's economy keeps booming, notwithstanding all of the naysayers.